online dialogue. This year, as we gather virtually, we reminded that peace is not just a dream, but something we nature daily through dialogue, empathy, and action. Our theme for this session, Cultivating a Culture of Peace, invites us to reflect on how we, as individuals and as communities, can build societies where respect, compassion, and justice thrive. My name is Zumaira Zainlabi, and I'll be your moderator today. And I'm an undergraduate of Peace and Conflict Resolution at University of California. It's a true privilege for me to moderate today's session and learn alongside all of you. Tonight, we are honored to be guided by Mr. Indica Pereira. Mr. Indica Pereira is an attorney at law and holds a master's from University of York, UK. While his career began in law, his true calling was found in the world of peace and peace building. Over the years, he has dedicated himself to creating spaces for dialogue, justice, and reconciliation, showing us that peace is not just an abstract concept, but a lived practice. The focus of today's discussion is cultivating a culture of peace, lessons from practice and policy. Now, when we talk about a culture of peace, it may sound like a big idea, but at its heart, it's something deeply personal and practical. It's about the choices we make every day, how we treat one another, and how we resolve conflicts, and how we use our voices to build understanding instead of division. Policies and practices shape the environment we live in, but it's also our values, attitudes, and actions that bring those policies to life. A culture of peace isn't just about preventing a war. It's also about creating conditions where trust, fairness, and human dignity are the norm. Mr. Indica Pereira, with his rich background bridging law and peace building, will help us to explore how lessons from both practice and policy can inspire us to become active builders of peace, not only in our community, but also in our personal lives. So let's welcome him warmly as he shares his insights and experience. Mr. Indica Pereira, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumera. Thank you for inviting, and I hope I'll be able to share some of my experiences, and maybe we could have a good exchange of ideas at the end. Sumaira is one of my best students in the university and very hardworking, intelligent, and I am really happy to see her in this youth network doing this kind of voluntary work. So, cultivating a culture of peace, lessons from practice and policy. So, I'll be mainly focusing my discussion with you all on initial concept, and then maybe a little bit more on South Asian experiences. The recent experiences we had in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and in most recently in Nepal, and then thinking of the way forward and what we can learn or we can take away. So, what is a culture of peace? According to the UNESCO Culture of Peace program, the culture of peace is an integral approach to preventing violence and violent conflicts and to building conditions for peace that's long-term sustainability. It consists of promoting a transformation from a culture of war and violence to a culture of peace through education, sustainable economic and social development, respect for human rights, equality between women and men, democratic participation, tolerance, the free flow of information, and disarmament. So, this is one of the definitions. And Boutros Ghali, former UN Secretary General, in his famous document, Agenda for Peace, he says the culture of peace is not simply the absence of armed conflict. So, not having conflict is not peace, but proactive processes of fostering values, attitudes, and behaviors that reject violence and endeavor to prevent conflicts by tackling their root causes through dialogue and negotiation among individuals, groups, and states is the culture of peace. So, while thinking about these very complex as well as little bit detailed definitions, some of you might even say some of these definitions are too idealistic, and one would even go to the extent to say that these are not practical as well, considering what is happening in Gaza. However, we will discuss these things in the question and answer session. So let me take you to the next slide. Why it matters now in South Asia. So in South Asia, I hope you most of you are from South Asia, and you might see and you might have experienced or you might have been part of the recent youth-led protests in Nepal, most recently Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So why did these things happen? And what led to these youth uprisings? Some people, the traditional old conventional politicians, are sometimes are not blaming, or sometimes not directly blaming, but in a more subtle way, they are saying that this youth are in a hurry and youth are, have an indecent way of expressing themselves, very violent and everything. But you need to understand why did youth behave in such a way. So the institutional fragility, democratic erosion were the reasons the youth came to the roads, youth came to the streets, youth came to protest, youth risked their lives to come out and speak out. When in one side I personally saw the Sri Lankan protests and activities, and I was in Bangladesh when some of the protests were going on. So Nepal, of course, we all saw it on social media and on other video news channels. So the institutional fragility and democratic erosion, the principles of democracy being eroded, and then when institutions are fragile, and when young people are feeling that the original objectives of these institutions, parliament or the whole positions, the prime ministership or the presidentship or the ministerial portfolios. So these core values or the core principles have been compromised. When such things are happening, the democratic erosion took place. And with that, we see the younger generation being not happy, being not being passive though, coming and expressing their concern concerns very in a vociferous manner. So also we see that the polarization between the generations, polarization between the pro technology and maybe little conventional communities, the older generations, and the mistrust in governance. And mistrust in the governance happened because of the routine practices of the corrupt ways and means, and sometimes we see that even in the democratic elections, the proper will of the people are not being properly represented. So, with all these things, the mistrust in governance happen, and then we see that youth are up. And going back a little bit more into the recent developments in Nepal, if I may remind you a little bit, the 2025 protests triggered by the social media ban and the corruption-related anger of the Gen Z and the I'm not going to go into the exact number of deaths. I would say 50 plus, but I know the number is much higher. And plus 1,300 injured. The parliament dissolved because of the pressure, and the interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki appointed as the interim Prime Minister. Hopefully, she would call for a election as soon as the situation is more calm and when the situation is ready to have a properly represented democratic elections. And the youth demand for accountability and transparency. So in Bangladesh, again, we saw the students mainly leading the protests on starting with the job quota issue and then again inequality and followed by corruption and all these activities, the protests and the mobilization were done mainly through Facebook, different ways of memes, and this visual identity of the youth played a key and a major role. And the government transition now, the government is under Dr. Muhammad Yunus. So he was appointed as the interim administrator, and he's supposed to have a election soon. But however, due to whatever the reason, which is not that clear, we are seeing that the election is not happening as fast as it was expected. And the challenges are the reform of the state, reform of the policies, reform of the existing some of the laws, and inclusivity within the processes, the selection for procurement, selection for jobs and everything, and transparency in all the activities of the government and service providers. And in Sri Lanka, we had in July 2022 the mass protests ousted the Rajapaksa government, and then we also had interim President Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, and then he had the elections due on due time and initiated the IMF reforms because in Sri Lanka, what we saw was on top of the political crisis, we had the economic crisis. For first time ever in Sri Lankan history, after the independence, we were not paying our sovereign bond payments, and we had huge queues in for fuel and gas and essential food items. Medicine was very scarce, and people were in queues for days waiting for fuel to come. So this economic crisis as well as the political crisis was almost complementing and supplementing each other in a negative way, and which led the youth to come to the streets and ousting the Rajapaksa regime at the time. And then we had the elections as per the constitutional arrangements, and present President Anrokumar Disanayake got appointed. And some of the reconciliation bodies, like we call it LLRC and Office of Missing Persons, which were established to have some transitional justice, which have limited impact, but we see that some of it is being helpful. And civil society participation, we see it's it's happening, it's there, but there are quite a lot of regulations and constraints in and around it. So going back again, peace education and media literacy. So dealing with the larger context of the our original topic, and dealing with peace education in achieving a culture of peace, we need to address the following issues in a more Sri Lankan context. Addressing the hate speech through education, this is one practical way of doing it. Hate speech is one of the key and major problems or challenges for a culture of peace. Pluralism and tolerance integrated into curricula, especially the school curricula and university subjects. Uh, we have peace and conflict resolution, but so, as a separate course. But I would say that some of the essence or some of the key peace building essence of the subject could be uh, given into other university students as well, so that they could also be more vigilant and aware of these issues and concerns. And critical media, because we see that uh, while the peace lobby is focused and vigilant on the culture of peace, we have on the other side the extreme elements, the political parties and groups who are benefiting from that are also organizing, and they are also having their disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda campaigns. So, in order to identify and understand these things and the nuances, the media literacy, having a proper idea of that is crucial. And interfaith education and teacher training is vital. Sri Lanka being a multi-religious, multi-ethnic society, we have all the major religions represented here. So sometimes religious tension happens between different communities due to the lack of education of the other. Christians have very little idea of Buddhism or Hinduism or on Islam. And the same thing goes for the others as well. So, interfaith education, everyone knowing about sufficient details about the other religion might help them to uh, have more trust, have more faith, and have more dialogues. So, youth protest and accountability. Youth are youth. Youth wants accountability. They want to be agents of accountability. They want to be the be the ambassadors of accountability. They want things to be transparent. So, how can we use that goodwill of the youth? How can we use them in the decision making process? And catalyst for reform, but risk escalation, and use them as catalysts in the reforms, state reform, institutional reform, and system reform. How are we to use youth as catalysts? But will there be any risk involved? If that is the case, so how are we going to avoid the risk escalation? And pathways need for youth leadership in politics. So we see some of the one of the negative things we see. Probably some of you might have more personalized examples that we see in South Asia is that a lot of our politics is dominated by senior citizens, either families or certain groups. So, how can we make it more pluralistic, inclusive, so that the youth who are capable as well as able and who has goodwill could join the political parties and then participate in the politics and make it a more good and better place. Protect peaceful dissent and expression. How can we tolerate the other? How can we tolerate without becoming angry with the other side? How can we do the nonviolent communication? How do we communicate nonviolently while asserting our point, while keeping it to our standards? How are we do it? How are we do it without becoming angry and agitated? So agreeing to disagree. So these kind of protect things, protecting peaceful dissent and expressing is needed. And conflict prevention mechanisms, which is also very important because we see even in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, as well as in Nepal, immediately, although the youth started leading the government change process, they all appointed very senior older people as interim leaders. In Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, in Bangladesh, Dr. Yunus, and in Nepal, Sushila Karki. All are older people. So, is there a pattern of some kind? So, how are we going to when it comes to peace related matters, early warning systems? Can we have something like that? Can we have rumor tracking or hate speech dashboards on social media so that we can be careful of disinformation as well as misinformation and sometimes total negative, wrong, and degrading news using with under the guise of right to expression or right to express the ideas. So the or could we have mediation boards on community conflicts? Can the community conflicts at the village or at the institutions or at the areas be dealt through mediation board? In Sri Lanka, we have a very strong culture of mediation. We have more than 8,500 mediation boards in the country run by volunteers. And these mediation boards are every year dealing with more than 250,000 cases, dealing with them and settling it. And out of those, around 72% are 100% sorted. So all these cases, since they are being sorted for free, they will not go into the courthouses. They will, a lot of people will save money as well as resources also. So we also could we have alternate dispute resolution forums at community level, mediation boards like that. Or you might have similar structures or similar establishments in your own jurisdictions. Can we like share some of those? Or can we uh, import and export some of this kind of best practices through this network? And community policing and liaison committees. Sometimes the policing is very important. Policing is not about having a gun and a uniform anymore. It's about dealing with the community, engaging with the community, and be part of the community. So, liaising with them, liaising with the village, liaising with the community, and then making the community a better crime free place is the objective. And transparent grievance redress mechanisms. Can we also have the grievances of the vulnerable communities, sexual minorities, girls, young boys or Adivasi communities or people with less literacy? Can they have ways and means to redress their issues, grievances? So, what kind of policy recommendations could we have? I'm going a little bit faster so that we can save more time for our discussion. So, bottom up reconciliation process. Reconciliation is more effective, efficient, and practical when it is more bottom up compared to more up down, top down. So, that is one possible recommendation. Stronger transparency and accountability through anti-corruption watchdogs or trainings or through experience sharing, sharing of case studies, because we see most of the core grievance which we saw in uh, most of the South Asian protests is corruption, the culture of corruption. While we have the culture of peace, we have a culture of corruption as well. So that culture of corruption is like a vicious cycle. So it self imposes certain negative things and which prevents the culture of peace and culture of democracy and culture of pluralistic inclusivity from coming up. So we need to have a strong transparency and accountability mechanisms and processes for having those. Peace education and media literacy, as I explained earlier, it is very important. How do we have peace education structured into the school curriculum, into the university curriculum, into all the other uh, places, starting from very young, maybe in kindergarten period, and then media literacy. People sometimes tend to think what they hear on news, what they see on television, what they see on YouTube, what they read on internet is the word of God. It's the right thing, and the uh, the these algorithms also prevent people from hearing more pluralistic sides. It feeds you what you want to hear. So if you are going more into fake news, then you will see more fake news. And then you will end up in a echo chamber where you will hear the same thing. And if you are not properly media literate enough, you might think that the whole world is thinking like you. The whole world is extremist, or the whole world is doing and liking what you like. So that is very important to have media literacy. And the ethical use of technology for peace building, we call it the peace tech. This is the trend. We are old and older generation. So young people like you should have, I know you have quite a lot of interesting ideas how to deal through the technology, and then how can you do digital peace building? How do you use artificial intelligence for peace building efforts? How are you going to reach out to the hearts and minds of the people and solve the issues of uh, culture of peace through ethical use of technology? And youth inclusion and leadership pathways. How do you use more youth in decision making? How do you get more young people, girls and boys, more girls, I would say, into the decision making process? Because we have in South Asia mostly uh, males in decision making processes. We need more females and their inputs into it, and resilient conflict prevention systems, which is quite important. We see within our countries also, while there is general sanity prevailing, inside the countries, there are quite a lot of extremist institutions, some organized crime networks and drug networks, underworld, as well as so many kinds of conflicts are on. So, how do we deal with them? How are we going to prevent them? And regional cooperation for peace. We being in the region, you all as experienced young people, you need to organize, you need to get together, you need to export and import the best practices. You need to constantly talk to each other and share the best practices so that we can have a much more better future. Sustainable funding and long term commitment. Sometimes we see some of the donor activities or the government funding is not sustainable. They are only goal driven or limited time bound goals only. So, how are we going to use them in a more long term way or more sustainable way is also a challenge. And what are the key takeaways? Peace requires justice, inclusion, trust. So, how are we going to achieve justice? How are we going to achieve more inclusive processes so that trust is being built within the countries, within the communities, as well as between the countries and between cross country religious groups as well, and multi scalar strategies, local, national, as well as digital and global, so that the young people, the Gen Z or the youth like you could make a more tangible difference. And youth and digital tools are double-edged. Definitely, I don't need to mention that. You all are familiar. So sometimes these can be used by some of these companies themselves. Most of these companies or are resource or income generating platforms which we are using for social mobilization or social accountability. So their priority is income generation. So we need to be careful of that as well. Trust, transparency, inclusion are essential foundations. How are we to increase trust while having the transparency, while keeping the ethical and more proper standards of inclusion? These are quite fundamental but paramount. So we need to have these things in mind when we are uh, working and going along. Regional cooperation strengthens resilience. It gives hope. Sometimes when you are in one country, when you are economically down, this is what we faced in Sri Lanka with the economic crisis and with the political crisis. We felt we were alone. We are just there on our own. But if you are regionally connected, if you are globally connected, if you have friends internationally, that hope, that support network, and that goodwill coming from your brothers and sisters around the world and in the region will support you and sustain you in the difficult times. So, with that positive note, I would like to conclude my session. I went a little faster. I hope it was okay for you. If you have any clarifications, or if you have any questions, or if you have any thing to share, I think now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing our insights and experiences. So I think you all got an idea of what is come to like the culture of peace. And it's your time to share your questions, ideas, and it's your space to discuss about these things. So Please feel free to ask your questions by unmute your mics, or you can just put in the chat so we can read it and ask the question from the facilitator. And it's your time. I think I can start like while the participants like take a moment to reflect on the session and get ready for the answer questions. I'll start with a few guiding sessions. From your experience, like what are some everyday practices that can help nurture a culture of peace in divided societies? Like in Sri Lanka, it's also a divided society, so we are not fully reconciled in everything. So, what are the everyday practices that we can have?
I think awareness is the critical thing. More you are aware, you need to be empathetic towards the others, different communities, different sexualities, different people from the region, the rich and the poor, and urban and not urban, educated and not educated. So all these different groups, vulnerabilities are there. So to trust each other, you need to be empathetic. Empathy, you don't need the government to pass a resolution, or you don't need the parliament to pass a law to be empathetic towards others. That we can do ourselves. But I have seen is sometimes we always focus, so we want to do larger things, bigger things. We want to lobby the government to pass a law or to uh, properly execute the existing law. That is true, that is needed. But while you are focusing on that, as Mahatma Gandhi very well said once, uh, we need to change ourselves. So when everyone changes, most of the critical change in the society or in the masses would also happen. So I would say one of the best ways would be to be more empathetic towards others, and so that we will be creating more trust. And more you trust, more happier the others will be. More happier the others, the whole place will be a very happy, smiling place, hopefully.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I got the good idea. I think the participants also they got the idea. So, what's the question and what's the answer? And um, another question. So, we got from Malina. Can you ask a question now? She has done. Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Melina.
Oh, okay. Hello, sir. I just had a little question after observing the great points that you were bringing up. So, when it comes to youth initiatives and things like that, we also, I believe, in Sri Lanka in 2014, we had a policy or an act where we brought together youth initiatives to sort of help policies in the government. So I just wanted to ask because there's a lot of instances where these youth projects are kind of sidelined and they're put aside just because they're youth projects and not really integrated within the government policies. Sort of, I feel that's an issue. So I just wanted to know how can these youth initiatives be better integrated into our national policies rather than being treated as these smaller projects and more of a mainstream project for the government to focus on? How can we move towards bringing youth projects to that level? I just want to ask you on your opinion for that.
Yes, Melina, if I understood you correctly, uh, eh, your concern was that most of the youth initiatives or the youth actions are seen as more spontaneous or more which would happen in different spaces.
Yes, sir, that was the question.
So I think it's in that question, the governments throughout needs to be more concerned. Governments need to be more inclusive, because what I see is that it should be part of the government mechanisms. Let's say, uh, I'm not fully sure about the other South Asian countries, but we have seen in Sri Lanka is there are very little openings where young people can join the policy making processes, where young people can contribute towards the decision making processes. So the whole idea of local governments, the Pradeshia Sabhas, was that the young people join them and make a difference in their own areas where they live. But we also see that those places are also being dominated by traditional politicians, traditional parties, senior people. I'm not saying that all people are all bad, or all the senior or conventional people are bad. But what my issue is that they do not think the way they thought when they were young, because young people will see things differently. Young people will respond differently, so their concerns and their ethos need to be represented in the policy making process. I think probably in the Sri Lankan context, I would say we need to amend some of our uh, laws. We need to have a proper, practical, user-friendly youth policy where young people need to be engaged more. Young people are willing to. I have seen across the board everywhere. Young people are very hopeful and very strongly contributing or willing to contribute, but the space is very limited. So I think the government need to have mechanisms to absorb this talent. Hope I responded to you sufficiently.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. It was very insightful.
Uh, Thank you, sir. And we got another question from Anuj. Should I read it for you, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay. How does the multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multilingual society in Sri Lanka affect politics, education, and economic development? What ways can be adopted to balance this society in terms of social unity and national progress? That's the question.
Very detailed question. I think your question summarized the problem in Sri Lanka. The failing to do such amalgamation, the failing to have spaces or mechanisms to get the minorities, or I'm not saying only the ethnic minorities. Minorities are not always the numbers. Sometimes you might be higher in numbers, but you might not be financially sound. You might be higher in numbers, like let's say in Sri Lanka. We have more women in Sri Lanka than men, but we see like out of 225 in the parliament, how many women? Less than 25. But we have 53% women who are eligible for voting. So we see that the numbers are higher, but they are still minorities. So we need to have a mechanism, or we need to have a constitutional provision, or we need to change our constitution in such a way so that it is more inclusive, it is more minority friendly, vulnerable communities friendly, more environment friendly. We don't see this kind of things. We don't. We see corporates who are rich and strong, uh, and the governments are standing on their side, and we see that poor in the sense in decision making access, uh, peripheral communities who are in peripheral places are not happy. See, today and yesterday we are having Mana community protesting in front of president's office about the sand mining in Mana and the unregulated construction of windmills. So quite a lot of windmills, quite a lot of unprecedented, unorganized way of sand mining has made the peoples of that area cannot have their livelihoods as they used to be. So the rich, all the successive governments are standing with the rich corporates in the name of development, and the people who are peripheral, who are probably in terms of the present day education levels, less educated, are being pushed further into the periphery. So we need to have more people friendly, environmental friendly, animal friendly constitution, so that all of us, youth friendly especially, girl friendly, because our laws are not like this kind of more friendly. It is more authoritarian. We still have the colonial laws. Colonial laws were there not for the people, they were there for the colonial masters. The laws were there to save the colonial masters from the people. So the laws were there to collect the taxes and to save the colonial masters, control the masses. We are still after independence. We are all still having the same. I know in some countries, I think Nepal is very progressive in that sense, India as well. In Sri Lanka, we have been very unfortunate. We are still having the same penal code which is done in 1866. Most of the laws, the police ordinance is 1848 or something. We are still having it. So we need to change these laws. We need to have a new constitution and make all these rules and regulations people friendly, animal friendly, and environmental friendly.
I hope Anojan get the idea. He got the idea and is thanking you for the clarification, sir. Is there any questions? So you can mute yourself or you can put in the chat. So, okay, I think I can ask you another question, sir. Okay.
Of course.
How do you see the role of youth in shaping both political and broad level actions for peace? Like already the Malina, she asked, like they are saying like, so youth, we are saying youth are radical, but I think they are not radical. Yeah, they are sometimes they are radical. They are like thinking and that they are like taking the action, but I think they are more progressive than the other generations. So how do you think? Like, how can we like be responsible? How can we like do something for the society than like getting the label of radicals?
Yeah, it is okay to be radical. It is. It's not a crime. When you are young, you are honest, and when you are young, uh, you have more energy. When you are young, you want to be truthful and you seek justice. And the thing is, Sri Lanka, see, in 1971, we had a youth insurgency. More than official statistics is more than 5,000, but the informal statistics is about 20,000. Young boys and girls died. In 87 to 90, we had a insurgency. Again, young boys and girls, more than 60,000 people died. We had the northern and eastern uh, struggle. More than 100,000 people died. So who are all those people? Young, honest, progressive people, boys and girls, who wanted system change, who wanted a better country, who wanted things not for them, their future generations, their younger girls and boys, they were not afraid to die. They were making all these changes for their people. So the state or the systems should be able to accompany and absorb these young talent. If the state is not sufficiently having mechanisms to absorb this young talent, young energy, young wishfulness, young people's uh, needs, then it's not the problem of the young people. It is the problem of the system. It is the problem of the state. So the state should reform, not the young people.
Thank you, sir. Like here, like everyone is young. Like they are from diverse backgrounds, and most of them they are being the peace building and peace studies, and some of them are doing democracy. So I think this answer like give them a very good insight. I think Anojan got another question. Yeah, ask Anojan. Okay, I can read it for you, sir. How do Sri Lanka's ethnic, religious, and linguistic differences shape the national identity, and what several strategies can be used to manage those differences if they threaten social unity?
Well, so far, none of these things, the system has been very defunct and the system has been not sufficiently geared up or tuned up to absorb these religious, multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-talented different communities of the country. So I think definitely to have those things amalgamated into the system, we need to have a state reform mechanism. We need to have a new constitution. We need to have a proper consultate. It has to go through a proper consultative process. People need to be consulted. People need to be given sufficient time to send their grievances, send their suggestions, send their ideas, and then only the system needs to be reformed. If such thing happens, then hopefully things will be better, and we can hope for a better future.
Thank you, sir. Like it's very much related to the practice here in Sri Lanka. Like when they're like passing a bill, mostly they are passing the bill on Fridays, and like they got a very small period to the suggestions and the everything. Saturdays and Sundays, they are focusing like when the holidays are coming. So it's very much related to the practical. And we got another question from Dwarka. You can ask your question. Dwarka, are you there?
You are on
Hello,
mute,
sir.
Dwarka. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Actually, we talked about a lot of strategies and mechanisms for peace. But what do you think is the hardest part about making them actually work in communities? Actually, cultural factors and discrimination, inequalities are still happening, right? Even with these plans and systems, conflicts still happens. So, what do you think gets in the way the most?
I think the trust is the issue. So we see, because of ignorance, because of having limited awareness of the other community, other religion, or other people's needs and wants, because of lack of awareness, people tend to trust less. not to trust or assume about the other. So when you assume things about the other and then you make decisions based on assumptions, not on facts. So then the others will have more grievances. So I would say, if I am to, I know these are more complex things. We cannot just say one thing and this is the golden horse and she would win. And this is the password for all the apps. It's not like that. But I would say one of the major issues is the trust. Trust can be only created through action, not with talks. Talks won't do much. So you need to have action. To have action, you need to have more awareness. More awareness you have with the others, more engagement you have with the others, then it will be more connections, more networking, and more networking, then more people will have better ideas.
Thank you so much, sir.
So, is anyone got any questions? We still have time to discuss, and yeah, we got two questions. Samiullah Sahar, you can ask the questions now.
Hello, everyone. You hear me?
Yes.
Hello, sir. I hope you're doing well. I'm Samir Sahar from Afghanistan. I've been listening to you talk. It's very interesting, and everything you've talked about is uh, great. Now, since I'm from Afghanistan, the things you have mentioned are like nowadays we just think we dream that such opportunities, such things should be considered by the government. Like our government has no policies for the young generation, and to be honest, here in Afghanistan, people, especially youngsters, as you say, they're energetic, they're trustworthy, they're loyal to the country, and they have energy. They want to work. Now the problem here is we don't have such opportunities. Even if we want to create such opportunities, the government is not letting us to do so. They are like almost dictating, like they are not calling it a government dictatorship, but it is kind of dictatorship. Now, in such situation, I've been like I've taught for more than 7 years at the core institutions and at university. But since the Taliban take over the government, I've been thinking about how can I help? How can I help the people, especially the youngsters, and more importantly, how can I help the girls? Like the education is banned here. I found that the girls are very curious here in Afghanistan. I'm shocked when I'm seeing girls online studying. Like I myself is very interested in studying, but I don't have that much energy, that much enthusiasm as much these girls are having nowadays. Like I don't know whether you know or not. 2 days before the government banned the internet, the Wi-Fi, they cut it off. Now I'm like I really worry about the girls. They were studying online, and they were grabbing every opportunity they were receiving. Now, I've been looking for such platforms like this one, where youngsters are getting uh, gathered and they're sharing, they're looking for the like solving problems. So the question for me is, when you don't have such opportunities as you mentioned, what should a youngster do then?
Thank you. Thank you, Sahar. And I really appreciate your question. And I really appreciate you joining this network and being listening to me.
Thank you, sir.
It's a very courageous thing as well, considering the context. And I think, I mean, to be honest, most of the things I mentioned are average and general. But in Afghanistan, it's a special situation. It's a unique situation. So, in such unique situation, we need unique solutions. Average solutions or average things which are for the other countries may not work for you all. So,
Yes.
best thing would be keep the hope, but keep on studying, keep on networking with everyone so that we all could support you with education, support you with sometimes hope, because sometimes hope is the only thing you would have when you are stuck and when you are kind of surrounded with certain maybe not that democratic or not that inclusive surroundings. So mostly that hope can be kept. It's like a flame. Sometimes wind comes and it gets away. So to keep the light on, you need to be with the networks, and we all have a, I think, moral obligation to support people like you all who are hanging in the edge. And I think I don't have an answer to your question. That's my honest answer. But I would say, but still, be in the network, and sometimes something might come up. So let's keep on connecting and keep on uh, helping each other.
Thank you, sir. That's what one thing you've mentioned. Hope. The hope is the only thing we are living. Hope is it. There is hope. Still, there is hope, and still we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's see. That's like I've been looking for such platforms, networks where I can get connected to the youngsters from around the world. And this is one of them, and it gives me positive energy, and it uh, gives me the feeling of connection. Like there are people to whom I feel connected. So thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Sahab. It wasn't like very, say, very related to his context, and I think like he has the capacity to like build a network, I guess. And we got another question for Enogen. Thank you for being an amazing participant, Enogen. This is the question, sir. How did the Elam civil war in Sri Lanka affect the country's economy and social trust? And what measures are needed to prevent such turmoil in the future?
Well, the Elam War, which initiated in the 70s but came to a larger extent very critically grew in the mid 80s, and in the 90s it was very strong, and in the early 2000s also until 2009 when the conflict ended. So it had major impact on Sri Lanka, and quite a lot of impact happened because it affected the tourism industry, it affected the foreign direct investment, it affected the good name of the country as well, and most of all, it affected the development of the northern and eastern provinces of Sri Lanka, where most of the conflict was happening. So it prevented the young boys and girls in those areas coming out and freely educating themselves and freely engaging with the free world. So lot of opportunity cost was there. I think if we count it financially, it would come into billions of dollars. And unfortunately, I would. It seems you are not from Sri Lanka. Uh, Unfortunately, I have to say that so far, although the conflict ended in 2009, power sharing mechanisms or transitional justice mechanisms to prevent such a thing from happening again has not been properly done by any successive government. We are really unfortunate about that. So we hope that this government would do something positive and make sure that transitional arrangement or constitutional reform, power sharing, or truth finding mechanism would be initiated so that the recurrence of such things could be prevented. So far, from 2009, three successive governments have been there, but everyone talked, but nobody walked the talk. It's really unfortunate, but this is a new government, so hopefully we hope sincerely that they would have the political will and the willingness and the courage to go into that path.
And Archana, I think you got the idea. Yeah, thank you. And do anyone have any questions? Till they ready for the questions, I think I can ask you another question, sir. Like, like we are just as a youth, or we are just most of them are undergraduates. So we are just still into the theories and like what we are seeing on the news and everything only. So we don't have any practical experience. So we'd like to hear a personal story or experience from you, sir. I think hope it's okay for you.
Ah, the thing is, what you all are doing now, personal experience would be volunteering, doing free work is one of the easiest ways to have experience because it's like a vicious cycle, no? So you have the degrees or the academic qualifications, but without practical experience, nobody will give a job. But without having a job, how are you going to get practical experience? So people, when you go for an interview, they would ask for, do you have experience? You would say no, because this is your first job. How could you have experience? But when you don't have experience, they won't take you to the job. So it's a bit like a vicious cycle. So the best thing to break it would be volunteer. Go to places. Sometimes most of the universities, I know in Sri Lanka now it is compulsory to have internship periods at least 3 months so that the young people will go into government places, private sector, non-governmental sector, civil society, international institutions, and get experience, would know how things work and how things don't work or why things don't work. So I think the best would be to go to places. This is what I did when I was studying in the law school. I mean, that is donkeys years ago. Most of your parents might also have been young those times. So what I did was I just randomly find some connection. Go to I prefer to work in the civil society sector, NGOs. I would go to organizations. Those days, the website, so that kind of social media, internet presence was non-existent. So find used to find or search for brochures go into the find the addresses, go to these places and talk to them and tell them that I'm interested and whether you have volunteer opportunities. Most people say no, we don't do volunteers. But I didn't get discouraged. I went to places, and some places they said, okay, come, we'll do something. So I built up on those things. So after a while, I knew people because when you're volunteering, you get to know people. You get to talk to new people and understand them. They would understand you as well, your talents, your mindset, your hardworkingness. All these things will be known. So after a while, one organization told me, "Would you like to come and work with us part time?" I would. I was really happy. So then I joined them. After a while, 2 3 years of part timing and volunteering, the rest of the time, they wanted me to come for full time work, and then I came up in the scale. So volunteering would be good. Other thing is now the technology is more advanced. So what I mentioned, those strategies were the old and conventional, traditional ones. But you guys are more tech savvy and you can invent technology. That's the beauty of the modern day technology. So you can invent your own thing. You don't have to go and work for somebody else. You invent something. You invent your own peace tech thing. You invent your own reconciliation platform. You invent your own AI based network for making peace, making reconciliation, making anti corruption awareness, making governments accountable, making social cohesion, making social accountability. It's in your hands. So think out of the box. Uh, think differently. I always say it's in my whiteboard also. Uh, it says, be childlike, but don't be childish. What is childlike? Childlike is when you are, let's say, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. Childlike, you are enthusiastic. You see something, you are amazed. You are willing to take risks. You are willing to understand things. You are willing to explore. That's childlike. Increase that. Don't be childish. Childish is, oh, I cannot, everyone is not happy with me, I don't like him, he doesn't like me, she doesn't like me, the government is not giving us space, people are discriminating, he is doing that, she is doing this, and always complain, always, oh, you think that you are the best, you know everything, my religion is the best one, my race is the highest one, my country is the best. Those are childish stuff. Don't be childish, but be childlike. That's where the liberation is.
Thank you, sir. I think our participant would find it very inspiring. That's very inspiring for me and my like I had good ideas. So and like we are now like we are hearing the stories about the post genocide like in Rwanda, and we are just having the experience like we are just hearing the stories what happened with the reconciliation commission. They did this and they did this. Like did you ever experience at least a small, like maybe a difference when it's come to the peace building? Like you have maybe in the physical building efforts. So did you ever see like peace building made a significant difference in some communities or something? So,
Yes, yes, so many experiences in small scale. My last work, I don't want to mention the institutions. Last 5 years, we supported North, East, and Uva provinces, more than 100 small scale peace building initiatives, all initiated by young people. less than 25 years old. We would give some basic training on social work, social action activities, and then we would give some seed money. We trust the youth. And most of the people said, don't give money to these young people. They would waste it. They would use it on drugs, alcohol, this and that. And these are, how can you trust? You are in Colombo. You are giving this money to people in Samanture, or the people in Vaunia North, or people uh, in Badul. But we never had the whole 5 years, and we did more than 100 this kind of projects, all young people. We never had anybody doing any corrupt thing. We never had any young people defaulting. We never had any young people running away with the money. When you trust the young people will trust you also. So they did so many peace building activities. They did so many development activities with girls and boys together. Sometimes people said, don't have them separately. Have the boys work on their own, and don't mix girls and boys. And in some areas, very traditional, like parts in Samanture or in Eraur, in Kenya, people said, don't no, I mean, don't mix boys and girls. But those are traditional Islamic areas in Sri Lankan Eastern Province. But all these young boys and girls, they never did anything bad. They behaved very well. Nobody did anything wrong. So it's a matter of trust. Peace cannot be built without trusting. If you trust, it's reciprocal. If you plant coconuts, you will get coconuts as harvest. If you plant uh, something else, you will get something else. So what you plant only, you will harvest. So if you plant trust, you will get more trust. It's reciprocal. So you have to trust the process.
Thank you, sir. We got another question from Anojan. He's asking, how do scams with the police force undermine public confidence in the justice system and social cohesion? And what reforms are necessary to correct this?
Well, I think the police issues are universal. Everywhere we see police, sometimes although with the best trainings and best facilities, even with the body cams and even with digital monitoring, even we see in North America and Europe, police are corrupt or supporting the organized crime. Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan police, of course, I cannot speak on the other countries because I do not have direct first-hand experience. It's not very good, but we are not very bad as well. I think what matters is the implementation or the rule of law. When a country's law enforcement, especially through the court systems, are strong and sufficiently balanced, then we get everyone on the edge or on the line. So I think for some of those we need to amend our police ordinance, because as I said earlier, we still have a colonial police force. The police was there to save the colonial masters from the masses or from the people. So everything is centered around not a people-friendly police. This is a colonial police. We need to transform it into a police service, like in some of the places, like in Europe, not even in North America. I would say Canadian police would be better. British police, German, French. The police needs to be a service. Yeah, it needs to fight crime, but on the same time, it needs to be people friendly. It needs to be supporting the people. The people needs to own it. Here, what we see mostly in South Asia, correct uh, me if I'm wrong, is that the people do not own the police. Police does, I mean, there are so many hundreds, thousands of good people, but still the system is such. I think the reason is it's still colonial. We need to we need to reform and transform the police into a people-friendly institution, and to do that, we need to use the best practices, learn from the mistakes, and then we need to reinvent it.
Thank you for giving such an insight, sir. Like, I actually agree what you have said about like how the police are like they are doing the work in here. Like, I got to know a few incidents like how the police are being with the civilians during my work in HRCSL. So they were infringing the rights of minorities. Mostly they are doing that right now during the memorandum events and everything. So even though they have a code of conduct, they are like, as you said, as they are like they are mostly like inclined to serve the civilians, but they are not. So this is one of the reform that we should have in most of the South Asian countries. Like as you said, like we don't know about the other South Asian countries. So our other there are participants from India, Pakistan, and Nepal, Bangladesh also. They can share their experience in this. So is anyone got any questions? If not, I think we can finish this with one more question, sir. Um, are there any particular trends among youth today, like that could either help or hinder the culture of peace? Like any, like the social hegemony here. So it's the one which is ruling every one of us, mostly the youth. So is there any kind of trends that help or hinder? Mostly, they do both have the advantage, disadvantage.
Yeah, I think the uh, energy and the honesty of the young people sometimes can be manipulated or misused by the extremist forces. Extremist means religious extremists, political extremists, or sometimes even organized crime. So we need to be very careful what we are doing, and basically, most importantly, we need to always ask the question why we are doing what we are doing and who benefits.
Thank you, sir. And it's already 9 o'clock. Um, we got another question, and can we consider it, sir? I
Of course, yeah, of course, I'm here.
thank you, sir. How can global peace be achieved by balancing powerful nations, political conflicts, and social differences?
I think that's a very timely concern. We see in most of the places that the balance of power is not there. So the traditional world, the international politics is changing. We see Russia is having a separate role, US is having a separate role, China, India, different roles. The geopolitics is changing, and all these new political shifts, and the bipolar world is shifting into a multipolar world. So, in that, I think we need to again rethink about the present situation and the global connections, the trade and everything is also changing. So with that, I think the whole I'm not expert of international relations, but I think that we need to reconsider the existing institutions like United Nations, because it is clearly showing that they cannot sustain the conflicts. We see Ukraine, we see Gaza, so we need definitely justice.
Yes, I think our participant got the idea. I think we can finish the session now. Thank you, sir, again, for your time and invaluable insights. Like we got the insights from that you had a background in law and the peace. So we got the experiences from both sides. So and thank you for all the participants for joining and engaging actively. So and thank you for being amazing participants in this session. And a gentle reminder to the participants, and we have another session tomorrow, 21st September, led by Mr. Surangarana Singh on youth governance and development pathways to a culture of peace. We warmly invite you all to join that dialogue as well. And this is a compulsory to receive your certificates also. And before we close, may I kindly request everyone to turn on your camera so we can take a group picture to commemorate this session. We would like to see all your rich faces. Then shall we take a picture? Say cheese. 1, 2, 3. Colin, we couldn't see you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Wait till I take a picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. Good night, everyone. Please be upon you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Subhan and Mira.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.